So what really makes someone an American? For over 150 years, the answer seemed pretty simple, just be born on U.S. soil. But that very idea, birthright citizenship, is now at the absolute center of a huge national debate. Let's dig into how we got here.
And this isn't some dusty old historical debate, it's happening right now. This quote from former President Donald Trump cuts right to the chase. He and a lot of other people are questioning a right that's been around since the Civil War, basically framing it as some kind of loophole.
And believe me, it's not just politicians talking. I mean, look at these numbers. While a majority, 60%, of Americans support birthright citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants, a huge chunk, 40%, disagree. This deep split is exactly why the fight is so intense.
So what's the real story? Is it a questionable policy that needs a second look? Or is it a bedrock principle of American democracy? To really get it, we need to go back, way back, to a time when this very question literally tore the country in two.
Okay, here's something you might not realize. The original U.S. Constitution, it never actually defines who a citizen is. It's kind of silent on the whole thing. So for decades, the country just sort of went with an unwritten rule that it inherited from English law. It's this idea called jus soli, which is just Latin for right of the soil. It's simple. If you're born in a country, you're a citizen of that country. And that's how the U.S. operated for a long time. But this unwritten rule was about to face a challenge so profound, it would shake the nation to its very core.
And that challenge came in 1857. The Supreme Court drops this bombshell of a ruling in the case of Dred Scott. He was an enslaved man who argued that because he had lived in a free territory, he should be free. The court said no. But then they went even further, and this is the crucial part. They declared that no person of African descent, whether they were free or enslaved, could ever be a U.S. citizen.
What the Dred Scott decision did, plain and simple, was create a formal, two-tiered system of personhood. On one side, you had the people of the United States, and on the other, you had people of African descent who are now legally defined as permanent outsiders. This ruling was a massive catalyst for the Civil War. So after 4 brutal years of war, the North wins, and one of its top priorities is to completely undo the Dred Scott decision. They knew they needed a new, permanent, rock-solid definition of citizenship that a future court couldn't just reinterpret or throw out.
So Congress takes its first shot with the Civil Rights Act of 1866. It was a direct answer to Dred Scott, the very first U.S. law to say out loud that people born here are citizens. But it wasn't a slam dunk. President Andrew Johnson actually vetoed it, arguing it would give citizenship to, in his words, gypsies and Chinese people. But Congress had the votes, and they overrode his veto.
But here's the thing about a law. Another Congress can just overturn it. So to make this permanent, to really lock it in, they put it in the Constitution, the 14th Amendment. The language seems pretty clear, right? All persons born in the United States are citizens. But there was one little phrase buried in there that would become the flashpoint for a legal battle that is still going on.
And that's the phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. What on earth does that actually mean? Well, modern opponents of birthright citizenship claim this was always meant to exclude certain groups. To find out, we don't have to guess. We can look at what the guys who wrote it actually said.
And thankfully, the congressional debates were recorded in detail. When one senator stood up and worried that this amendment would make the children of Chinese immigrants citizens, another senator fired right back with this: "The child of an Asian is as much a citizen as the child of a European." So the historical record is pretty unambiguous. They absolutely intended for it to apply to the children of all immigrants.
Well, it didn't take long for the 14th Amendment to be put to the test. And the challenge came, just as that one senator had predicted, right in the middle of a wave of anti-Chinese sentiment.
See, in 1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act. It basically banned Chinese immigrants from becoming naturalized citizens. But this created a huge unanswered question. What about their kids who were born here, on American soil? This giant legal question became a very personal crisis for a man named Wong Kim Ark. He was born in San Francisco. He was an American. But when he took a trip to China and tried to come back home, he was denied re-entry. The government's argument was that because his parents were Chinese citizens, he was too. Imagine that, being locked out of the only country you've ever called home. His case went all the way to the Supreme Court. So in 1898, the court hands down its decision. And their logic is actually really simple. They just asked a few basic questions. First, was Wong Kim Ark born in the U.S.? Yep. Second,
Was he subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S., meaning that he had to follow U.S. laws? Yes, of course. The court then clearly defined the only exceptions: the kids of foreign diplomats, of invading armies, and members of sovereign Native American tribes. Their conclusion? Everyone else born here is a citizen. Period.
And you'd think that would be the end of it, right? Case closed. For over a century, the Wong Kim Ark decision was the final word on the matter. But as we're seeing, old arguments have a funny way of coming back around.
I mean, for more than 100 years, this was settled law. The legal system time and again upheld the Wong Kim Ark ruling. It became the accepted interpretation of the 14th Amendment, the legal consensus that defined what it meant to be a citizen by birth.
Okay, so remember that senator from the 1860s? The one who was worried that the 14th Amendment would grant citizenship to the children of Chinese immigrants? Keep that in your head.
Now fast forward to today. Listen to the argument being made now. Critics are saying that undocumented immigrants aren't truly subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S., that they're sort of like foreign diplomats. Does that sound familiar? It is the exact same legal logic used against Wong Kim Ark, just dusted off and aimed at a new group of people. The echo across 150 years is, well, it's undeniable.
So that's where we are today. We have this fundamental right, born out of the ashes of the Civil War, upheld by the Supreme Court for over a century, and now it's being challenged head-on by a new political movement. The question isn't just about politics. It's about how we define who we are as a nation. Is being an American a right you get at birth, or is it a privilege that politics can take away?